Hey, welcome to the Axis of Love show. I'm your host, Denise Dorey. And today, Shona G is my guest. She's the educational director and CEO of Axis of Love SF, a compassionate cannabis community. And we embody civil rights, but we are often overlooked for our civil rights because we're used as cash cows. So we went to Sacramento, and we drove up to Sacramento to the assembly because there was a committee on business and professionals at the assembly, and we wanted them to vote in favor of Senate Bill 829, and of course they voted 9 for and 1 against. And while the bill allowed existing permitted stores and growers to be exempt from taxes for medical cannabis given away for free and a license for compassion still remains in the hands of the very elite and the spiritual dimension, if you will. And there's my guest. And this is Shona G, the CEO of Axis of Love SF, a compassionate cannabis provider, service, and political genius, really, is Shona G. Hello, Shona.
Hey, Denise. I would say that you are the political genius, but we're really at some crossroads right now for compassion programs. I'm glad you're paying attention to what's going on.
Oh, well, we need you. We need you to continue the services because no one else in the state is. They've all dropped the ball on us. Even though there's this business and professions code in that creepy Prop 64 that confirms a licensed applicant's status as a nonprofit entity registered with the California Attorney General's Registry of Cannabis, Registry of Charitable Trusts, and that the applicant is in good standing with all state requirements governing nonprofit entities. Because let's face it, they're regulating us to death, literally. Tell it.
Well, the crossroads that we're at right now is that, come January, all of the communal gardens face closure, and we, while Prop 64 had tucked inside of it an expectation that the Bureau of Cannabis at the state level by 2018, so before the law would go into enactment, would have something in place to make a bridge for the community programs that primarily serve low-income patients. Well, they didn't do their feasibility study at the state level nor in Scott Wiener's task force. And so, after we've had patients without medicine for about 6 months now, and we finally have something entered for compassion, but it's nothing that will help the actual community-based compassion programs. What it does is it simply gives sort of a Trumpian tax-exempt status to the permit holders currently, which is good, but it doesn't, and it gives a license type for compassion. But the big issue is that none of these community-based programs without a fee waiver for that license are going to be able to achieve getting those licenses. And then you also have tucked inside of Prop 64 an enabling mechanism that would allow for local, so the city of San Francisco right now, through the Office of Cannabis, could give 12-month temporary permits to existing compassion programs until we get this all worked out. So what we're looking at is we have a symbolic gesture at the state level to continue the compassion programs, but nothing that really makes it work.
Nothing binding. The door's locked.
There's things that are binding, and it just doesn't work yet because these nonprofit and community-based compassion programs aren't going to have the resources to get a state-level permit.
How much is that? 25,000?
It can be upwards of that because you really have to think about the fact that you have to pay for lobbyists and architects and people to come by and check the building codes, and I mean it really, 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 really adds up. And the voters expected that this problem would have been ironed out before the enactment of Prop 64, and that promise already has been broken.
How was it broken? By whom?
What?
How was the promise broken? By whom?
Well, I mean, the promise was broken by the Bureau of Cannabis, by our local legalization task force who put compassion on the back burner. We should have already had every compassion program in this issued a temporary permit, helped if they don't have the qualifying mechanisms for the temporary permit, helped by the Office of Cannabis to meet those goals. And by, January, when we have all these closures of community gardens, which are basically the gardens that support compassion programs, we needed to have those mechanisms in place. And when I say the problem broke, they didn't discuss this. They don't have this lined up for people. All we have at the state level from Senator Scott Wiener is permission for the entities already holding permits to basically not pay the taxes on medicine that they give away. And it doesn't have any fee waivers. It doesn't have any temporary permits for the community-based programs. So the only people that really get helped out with SB 829 are what we are now referring to as the elite market, the people's market. So compassion programs that are community-based are not helped with this yet. Hopefully, now I've gotten word from Senator Wiener's office that a staff member is going to be calling me within the next 24 hours. So hopefully we can get this moving forward. Hopefully we can get, some amendments in place that make this actually work for the compassion programs.
Absolutely. So the bill requires the existing law allows for the transfer of cannabis between individuals without compensation of any kind so long as the individuals comply with possession limits. And that's, for patients, that's an ounce, right?
Correct. So by law, you are allowed to give away an ounce of medicine.
And
so some of the smaller programs will be able to still give away joints and what have you, but that's not helping the compassion movement. What we need is all of these programs help to register. Anything they're missing, the Office of Cannabis locally should be helping each program get whatever they're missing in line. And we temporary permits, and that should be a priority, and it has not been a priority.
Ugh. And so Scott Wiener is sort of like, really just doing a double take. He's having us chase a carrot, right?
Well, it's a dangling of a carrot, but, and it's Drug Policy Alliance that he's working with, so he's not getting the full picture. I actually don't think that Scott Wiener is trying to shut down any compassion programs. I just think he doesn't quite understand the mechanisms that will keep the community organizations as well as relieving the taxes for the very elite people that have the expensive permits already.
Right. Yeah, the elites they priced us out basically. They made the cost prohibitive, just like they did with the conferences to legalize cannabis. We were left out of committees and everything. So, and let's talk about this committee that's coming up. They're going to vote on committee members in November to create the Cannabis Commission to oversee the Department of Cannabis at an election.
So that got continued. That's on the local level, and what it is a charter amendment that will be on your ballot in November. And it creates a 9-person cannabis commission, 5 of which would be equity committee members who would be approved by the Board of Supervisors, 4 of which would be selected by the mayor, then in turn select the head of the Department of Cannabis and go over the work that's been done already. So there's some problems going on, with fairness. Right now, there's only one person that makes any decisions about permits, and that would be Nicole Elliott.
Uh-huh.
And in general, this looks like a good way to go. We make sure that there's a patient and consumer seat that needs to be inserted. So the good news is that it was continued at rules yesterday, that there's some amendments going on.
Uh-huh.
So we didn't miss the ball necessarily.
Oh, good. You there?
Amendments are being proposed. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So we could go back in, next week, find out when it's going to be heard again. So it didn't leave the committee yet.
Yeah. And you know what else they kind of...
continued.
Yeah, that's good. Now, they made it so you a state card is like $100.
Right.
Yeah, it's insanity. So that negates all the costs you might even save on the distillery taxes we're paying, which I'm not paying any because they go to the police.
Right. So supposedly there's something going on in the background to bring that cost down. I personally don't see why anything should cost more than the state ID.
Yeah, for a piece of plastic, $100. I just laughed and walked out.
I just don't see why anything there's no reason why it should cost more than any other state-issued ID. And the state-issued IDs have fee waivers attached to them for low-income people. You can get a fee waiver at your GA office or your SSI office for just getting your state ID. There's no reason to have any other program going on.
Well, it's the same silly control freak reason that they charge us double fines for smoking cannabis in public as they do tobacco.
Right. We're still dealing with a lot of prohibition-like concepts. And the charging, for smoking outside double of what they charge on tobacco just shows that the tobacco industry still has more expensive lobbyists than we do, I guess,
Yes.
Because that is just outrageous, right?
No kidding. Oh, it's just unbearable. Shona, it's just, now the tax liability for organizations providing cannabis to seriously ill patients. And the bill seeks to do that, and the language as amended doesn't include anyone other than Type M licenses. Can you explain what a Type M license is?
A Type M license is a medical license. There's adult use licensures and there's medical licensures because there's now up to 13 types of licensing that you can get for cannabis, going from, the micro business to the larger scale cultivation. And now you could get, if this legislation passes, you can apply for
Yeah. You there?
permit. You can apply to do the compassion program thing. But basically, like I said, without a fee waiver and without these temporary licenses and the closure of gardens in January,
Yeah.
which is where most of the compassionate medicine goes to. What we're looking at this being, in essence, is a part of the corporate takeover, and it's a corporate takeover of charity. And of course, it's better that the corporate entities are doing charity than not doing charity, but what we risk losing are the community-based groups that have actually been doing this for the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
And have the relationships with the grower and the patient. Some of these groups, like our group, has harm reduction services, outings, events. Some of them are just strictly, delivering the free medicine to the patient at their home. Whatever works for a patient, but these are programs that are lifeline programs that patients have become dependent on, and there's no reason to close them. There's no reason to close them. If it's not broken, don't fix it. What we need is just a way for these programs to operate legitimately. And actually, we need all of these programs to have much more support from the greater cannabis community. We have some wonderful programs that have cropped up over the last 4 years, like the Jetty Extract does a shelter project. There's Weed for Warriors, all of this just popping up within the last 5 years. And we want people to continue on that path. We need more compassion programs, not compassion just as a charity element of corporate cannabis. That doesn't work for the community.
No, it doesn't. They want to be, it's all about being the gatekeepers. They want to gatekeep everything. They don't want to empower any of us. They want just a few, it's just the same playbook as we're going through with Big Pharma, and they charge so much for their medicine too, It's just predatory, and we've got to get away. I don't know, the predatory, the lobbyists, I guess, are controlling the narrative, and when they control the narrative and they start calling it recreational cannabis, that really troubled me. I don't like the word recreational cannabis,
Yeah, I think social use is much better. I think that, Canada just went legal today, so
well, they call it recreational over there. So we got to tell the world, hey, stop calling it recreational. Rethink this.
Yeah.
Yeah, rethink what you call this, because it defines us. When you call somebody, everybody who does magic spells know that, you give something a name, you've defined it, and that's what they are, So it's weird, you know what I'm saying? They're trying to put the kibosh on us, by calling it recreational. I'm just not having it. I see what they're doing. There's a whole guilt trip thing that goes with it. So now talk about what we can do, because we got about a minute and a half. Let's see. Well, it's 6:18. Okay, so there's about 4 minutes left.
The most important thing for people to do is, so this goes to committee on Monday, and it would be really important for people who are, in Scott Wiener's districts, which is San Mateo and San Francisco, to get on the phone and to call, your representative and let him know that license are needed for the compassion programs to continue, and could he please amend so that this also supports the community programs.
Well, what's a quick way of saying it? Restore SB 420?
Not really. I don't think there's any quick way to say it other than we need the fee waivers and we need the temporary license for community-based compassion.
Without the prohibitive permit costs.
Well, then we need the fee waiver.
Yes. Okay, so those are our asks, and we're meeting tomorrow to ask them. So call Scott Wiener sometime around 11. Let's flood their office with calls about this.
Right, so tomorrow it would be great, if people could get a few calls in. Access to Love will be putting a few calls in. Hopefully I will be talking with the senator's aide. before we meet up at 11 and make our calls. But, you know, anytime on Friday, if, you know, morning, noon, afternoon, you know, give a call to Senator Wiener's office and just let him know that you support amends for fee waivers and temporary permits for compassion programs.
Yes, because, you know, the moral imperative has not disappeared just because they called it recreational. Doesn't mean there's no moral imperative to still have compassionate programs for people who need free cannabis. It's a no-brainer.
Right.
Senator
Wiener supports that, but he just doesn't understand how to make it a reality. So please thank him for supporting compassion. It's not that he's against it. He's just not putting forward the right mechanisms to make it work for the community programs.
Well, that's nothing new.
Right, I know.
Yeah. Well, thanks for everything you do, Shona. And let's see, we
Likewise,
got 30
Denise,
seconds
you really
left.
help people, keep them informed about everything.
Well, thanks for everything you do, Shona. And with that, I'm going to ask that people follow Axis of Love SF on Facebook, and we'll give you information on our politics and how you can help us, because, you know, people are out there, they need help. And I appreciate your call, Shona. Thank you.
Say nation!